Xbox exclusives coming to Nintendo consoles. Kevin Afghani's first year as the voice of Mario and a new Nintendo system? What does that look like? It's the LP Podcast. Hello and happy Tuesday. It's the day of the week where I do more talking than playing of Nintendo games, but Nintendo's the topic all the same. This episode, we're working forward with an eye on the future. Speaking of future, it would seem the future of Paper Mario, the Origami King, is, well, dwindling. If you're not familiar, Paper Mario, the Origami King is the latest installment of the RPG franchise, and it has since been pulled out of production. You can still find new copies, really, anywhere games are sold, but no more are being produced. So if you want it, you better get on it. Pikmin 3 Deluxe, also out of production. So it looks like if you want either of these great games, and then some potentially, judging by the tail of this article, you're going to have to go pick it up. It seems that physical copies of Pikmin 3 are only left in stock at Walmart. So keep an eye on that. More on Walmart here in a moment. Apparently, Walmart is the topic now. I did not have this laid out the way I thought. Sugarland Man out of $300 after ordering a Nintendo Switch on Walmart's website through a third-party vendor. Now, first and foremost, anytime you lose money, it's a tragic experience, right? Goodness gracious, crap is expensive nowadays, and you don't need to be doing that any more than you already do. But it's even more tragic when you think you're getting yourself, or in the case of this man, your daughter, a Nintendo console, and it doesn't happen. Apparently, he ordered through Vicos Toys, a third-party vendor through the Walmart website, and he didn't get it. He never did. It was the 12th of December. I started thinking, well, it's not going to get here in time for Christmas. So I canceled the order, and they immediately credited me the $355. And then I thought I was done. He says then, however, a few weeks later went by, and FedEx rang his doorbell with an envelope he thought was gift cards or something for his daughters, and he signed for the package. The same day, he received an email from Walmart saying the Switch was signed for and that the package was received. Opened the package, and what is that? That's not a Nintendo Switch. That's a switcheroo. It's some sort of strange plastic contraption. Is it paint? Perhaps. It doesn't actually look like it confirms what the object is. But he was then charged the full $355 since he signed for it. Now, that's pretty poopy, to put it lightly. Apparently, he is still battling to get things made right here, either by getting the Switch or getting his money refunded for whatever the heck this is, and I hope that happens. But let this just be a lesson. Just buy your Nintendo products straight from the source next time. I think that's probably the best idea of all. So, moving forward, another great idea. Xbox's idea. So, rumors are raising about Xbox's long-term strategy in the gaming space. It's been no secret that Xbox and Sony have kind of competed against each other for the same market share, whereas Nintendo's often doing their own thing. Xbox, apparently, rumors are saying, is looking to push their what were Xbox solo titles or Xbox exclusive titles out into other consoles. We've talked about this before on the podcast, but it looks like the rumor itself is gaining some steam, and I think that's cool. I think that's awesome. Now, of course, it does bring to mind the fact that Nintendo doesn't necessarily compete on raw power, so perhaps not all of the games will function, how do we say, the right way or the way that they were intended to. So I'd be curious to see here if this has anything to do with the rumors also circulating about another Banjo-Kazooie game, because that would be a good addition to any Nintendo console library. Speaking of Nintendo, Kevin Afghani recently joined the Nintendo universe after the departure of Charles as the voice of Mario. And apparently, he had a great time on top of doing a great job. His tweet here, "Never in my wildest imagination could I have believed what this year would mean to me. I have lived a lifetime's worth of dreams in a year, and I truly cannot put into words how grateful I am. from the bottom of my heart, thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome, Kevin. I think it's great, number one, that he was able to one, secure the role, and two, do such a great job. The voices are gosh darn indistinguishable in my opinion, and I look forward to his contributions in future games, which are hopefully coming soon. And hopefully we learn more about that here this month. So, Nintendo Directs are not often announced super far ahead of time. I mean, if you're a Nintendo fan, you're probably well familiar, but by and large, it's usually, hey, surprise, there's going to be a Nintendo Direct in 2 days at this time, be there. And it can be difficult to sort of predict when the next one's going to be. However, there are, there's precedent set from prior years, sort of putting the time frame, so to speak, up front and center. And it would seem that this month will be the next one. Fingers crossed, because there's a number of things that I'd be keen on getting information on. The big banner here, Princess Peach Showtime, would be number one probably for me, at least among the things that I consider extraordinarily likely for them to talk about in this Direct. They'll probably talk about Princess Peach Showtime. They'll probably talk a little bit about Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door remake. And maybe, if we're lucky, they'll also talk about Nintendo's next console, or at least tease it a little bit. It's something that people are considering to be growing ever more likely to be in development, number one, obviously, but number two, lining up for a 2024 release, which would be absolutely incredible, in my opinion. I look forward to it. In fact, if that were to be the case, right, if Nintendo's next console were to come out this year, what would that do, and what would that look like, right? Because Nintendo is obviously still churning out games for the Nintendo Switch. We just talked about two that are relatively, how do we put this, highly anticipated games. Princess Peach getting her first mainline game in a long time, and then, of course, one of the best Paper Mario games, one of the best games of all time, getting a re-release and a remaster. Definitely no two small titles to be releasing near the end of the Switch's lifespan. So, I would have to imagine that Nintendo would not be putting forth a whole lot more, right? If we come to this next Direct in this month or the next month or sometime in the first quarter of this year, and they start announcing more Switch games, I would think that then it would be time to pump the brakes on the Switch's successor on Nintendo's next console, and then instead of expecting it in 2024, to start looking forward to 2025. Because first and foremost, Nintendo's a business, right? They want to make money. They want to produce sales. And yeah, they want to continue to, to squeeze everything they can out of the Switch's lifespan, but they don't necessarily want to directly compete with one another. I do suppose, however, the possibility then becomes cross-platform releases, right? We've seen it before, Breath of the Wild on the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch, Twilight Princess on the Wii and the GameCube. I mean, it's pretty ubiquitous. It does that happen. So I suppose that's not inherently darting. However, now that I say this out loud, I think that a huge factor in making me, believe that the next console is coming this year is if they announce, say, a mainline 3D Mario game. If this next Direct teases that as something that's coming in the later part of this year, I would almost go so far as to guarantee the Switch's successor to be coming shortly after or directly in line with that, and them doing the whole cross-platform release of getting it on the Switch as well as the Switch's successor. Speaking of, what do we think the Switch's successor is going to be like? I know we saw like the clamshell patent thing, and I definitely don't think that is going to be the case at all, but I do think a multi-screen sort of experience will be something that Nintendo looks to innovate on. The articles that I've seen here are that Nintendo is not gonna do anything crazy. They're just gonna, try and behold to the status quo, and they're gonna do with what works, and that's not Nintendo. Nintendo very rarely has gone from one console to the next and not really changed something significant. I think the last time that happened was the NES to SNES. Everything after that has been like a massive change, a massive upgrade, a massive subset of innovation, right? Moving from the N64 to the GameCube perhaps was also in the same vein. Not a huge sort of change, just a ton of more power. But moving from the GameCube to the Wii, huge change. Moving from the Wii to the Wii U, huge change. Moving from the Wii U to the Switch, huge change. Moving from the Switch to what's next. So when we think about the Nintendo Switch, right, what makes it unique here? The ability to play handheld or docked, the ability to swap out your Joy-Cons, the ability to play at home, on the go, and anywhere in between. And I think that that will be something that does persist with Nintendo's next console. I think that that is a subset of the market that they have identified as theirs, for lack of a better term. They right now compete with no one on that. Sure, there are some other like third-party products that somewhat do similar sort of things, but by and large, amongst the A-list game developers and companies surrounding the area, Nintendo's in rarefied air, okay? And I think they want to hold on to that. I mean, they've always had their hands in both the handheld and the home gaming pots. You know what I'm saying? Like the Game Boy and the N64, the GBA and the GameCube, the DS, 3DS, etc., and the Wii, Wii U, what have you. So I think that that's going to continue. They've kind of merged the two of them into the Switch. And I think the next console will, again, have that handheld portion, but I think it'll allow you to do the very Wii U thing of having, you know, the tablet in your hand with the screen, and then also play on the home screen, the TV, the monitor, what have you. I think that that could be their next innovation, because while the Wii U didn't sell well, there was a certain amount of love that people had for that mechanic, right? Having the menu literally in front of you. And I remember when the Switch was first announced, I thought that this was the case. I thought that you were going to be able to play, you know, with the Switch and handheld and then on the TV. Of course, that's not the case as we know now, and it's been a very, very, very positive experience with the Switch as it is. But I think that the successor will kind of go back to those Wii U roots a little bit. And in line with some of these articles, maybe Nintendo isn't innovating hugely in that regard, but it is an innovation and a change. And I think that we could see it at the end of this year. Honestly, I really hope so. Selfishly, gosh darn it, anytime I can get another Nintendo console, well, that's a good thing. Alongside that, we'd have to wonder launch titles, right? I know we talked about potentially a mainline Mario game, a 3D Mario game being a cross-platform sort of thing between the Switch and its successor. And Nintendo always, more often than not, I don't say always, puts out a solid slate of launch titles. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because they want the hardware to sell. Hard to sell the hardware if you don't have the software to play on top of it. Gotta make sense. So I could see a Super Mario game. Another thing that fans of Zelda might be happy about is I think we could see sort of a scaled back Zelda, not the grand adventure that has been Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but maybe a smaller, more compact dungeon crawlier linear Zelda. On the one hand, that may not make sense given the expected increase in processing power and capabilities of the next Nintendo console, but on the other hand, I think that could make good use of a dual screen sort of thing, right? You have your inventory, your items, your map in your hands, you have the adventure on the screen. I think we'd be working with something there. Either which way, I do think that we'll be getting a Mario Kart. All right, Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe have been on the market now for close to a decade. Okay, the games continue to get DLC through the Switch's successor, but I think that is ripe for another installation. Similarly, Super Smash Bros. Is also in that same vein, even though there are rumors perhaps that it may take a different direction, with Sakurai not necessarily being as involved. It's all subject to change, though. Anyone's guess. All I know is that it's an exciting... All I know is that I'm slurring my speech. All I know is that it's an exciting time to be a Nintendo fan. We have a great many things to look forward to, and after the year that was 2023, I can only imagine that the one thing that would make 2024 even have any hope of standing up in comparison would be the release of another Nintendo console. Wow. I'm so excited, my tongue's doing backflips. So, that is all for today. It's a short one and a hypothetical one mostly, but I've been your host, LP. I do this podcast every Tuesday. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. We talk about the news of the week and occasionally have guests too. I hope that you enjoyed yourself, and I hope that I see you again next week.